Ryan Gosling is officially joining the galaxy far, far away. He's set to star in one of the next big Star Wars movies, which has left many fans wondering, why Ryan Gosling? What's this new movie all about and how does it shape the future of Star Wars? We'll dive into those questions, plus discuss the involvement of Shawn Levy, known for his work with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and what his vision could mean for the next phase of the Star Wars saga. Is this a soft reboot for the franchise, or does it have something else in store? And what about the Rey movie that was supposedly cancelled? I'll break it all down, including new details about Lucasfilm's plans to reset the timeline with fresh characters and ideas, and stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. Ryan Gosling has officially been cast in one of the upcoming Star Wars movies, a development that has surprised many fans. While he's not the first actor you'd associate with the galaxy far, far away, there's a bit of history behind this casting. Years ago, rumors swirled about him potentially joining Star Wars The Force Awakens, but nothing came of it at the time. However, it seems Gosling has been seriously considering stepping into the Star Wars universe for some time. This announcement naturally raises a lot of questions about the movie and what it means for the Star Wars franchise. Production is slated to begin later this fall, which explains why the casting news is coming out now. This project is reportedly set to be the next Star Wars release following the highly anticipated Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Interestingly, Gosling's closest brushes with the Star Wars universe prior to this were fan-made edits during the time of The Force Awakens rumors and his performance alongside Harrison Ford in Blade Runner 2049. During their press tour for that film, Gosling and Ford shared memorable moments, although it was also the period when Ford often leaned into his grumpy old man persona, especially when answering Star Wars questions. These days, Ford seems to have mellowed out a bit, particularly after joining Marvel as part of Captain America Brave New World. That said, he still knows how to deliver his trademark sass when Star Wars questions come up. As for the film itself, it's one of many Star Wars projects currently in development. This particular movie is being helmed by Shawn Levy, and while there's still a lot we don't know, it's rumored to be a standalone project rather than part of the main episodic saga. This means it won't be Star Wars Episode 10. Instead, it's likely a one-off film designed to gauge the audience's response and test the waters for future projects. Elephants will answer to inducting, contrasting, which is basically just, if everything goes well, Shawn Levy could be brought back for a trilogy or even larger projects in the Star Wars universe. The decision to cast Gosling may also reflect a shift in strategy for Star Wars films. Unlike Marvel's long-term contracts where actors often sign on for multiple films, Lucasfilm appears to be offering more flexibility. Actors like Gosling can commit to a single film, and if the experience and reception are positive, they can negotiate for additional appearances. With this approach, Star Wars is not only attracting top-tier talent, but also allowing filmmakers like Levy the creative freedom to explore unique storytelling possibilities. Given the timeline for big budget productions like this, we're looking at a potential release window of Christmas 2027 or spring 2028. Fans will undoubtedly be watching closely to see how this project unfolds and what it signals for the future of the Star Wars franchise. The best value is often how much a different sound half of the sound drop exemplifies a different feeling and a state of Christmas and a joy of Potters and Star Wars fandom. For those who aren't thrilled about Ryan Gosling or big-name actors from other franchises entering the Star Wars universe, it's important to note that Lucasfilm is betting heavily on moves like this to shape the brand's future. Right now, the heart of Star Wars' ongoing success is still tied to Grogu and The Mandalorian. It's a logical decision given that The Mandalorian has been one of the most widely loved and successful projects Star Wars has produced in recent years. Lucasfilm is using this popularity as a foundation while exploring new creative directions for the franchise, including what they'll eventually do with Star Wars Episode 10 and the continuation of the mainline saga. Releasing Shawn Levy's film right after The Mandalorian and Grogu movie signals that they have a lot of faith in this project. It also shows their willingness to fast-track Levy's film, prioritizing it over some of his other potential projects, like a sequel with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. That decision may have been influenced by Reynolds currently dealing with legal challenges, which could make scheduling difficult. If Shawn Levy's standalone film performs well, there's a strong chance he could eventually be tapped to direct Star Wars Episode 10. Interestingly, while Lucasfilm recently confirmed they are developing what could essentially be the next mainline saga of Star Wars films, there's conflicting information about whether it will continue the Skywalker saga. Some reports suggest it could expand upon the existing prequel, original, and sequel trilogies, while others hint that that Lucasfilm may be planning to start fresh with an entirely new storyline. Insiders at Lucasfilm seem to lean toward this new trilogy moving away from the Skywalker saga entirely, focusing on brand new characters and charting a different path forward. This would allow Star Wars to reset itself creatively, avoiding the pitfalls of overusing characters from the sequel trilogy, which divided fans. That said, some beloved figures like Grogu are likely to return. As a character with a long lifespan, similar to Yoda, Grogu fits naturally into the broader Star Wars timeline and provides a sense of continuity, even in a franchise aiming for a creative reset. This strategy signals a balance between innovation and nostalgia, with Lucasfilm cautiously experimenting with fresh ideas while leveraging familiar elements that fans love. If executed well, it could breathe new life into Star Wars while honoring the legacy of the galaxy far, far away. Grogu's involvement ensures a sense of continuity as his long lifespan allows him to seamlessly exist in Star Wars stories far into the future. The upcoming saga is set to take place shortly after the sequel trilogy's conclusion, but it won't directly serve as a continuation of The Rise of Skywalker. Instead, it will function as a standalone narrative, introducing entirely new characters and ideas while exploring a fresh creative direction for the franchise. This decision marks a significant shift for Star Wars, especially since Lucasfilm has reportedly scrapped the Rey-centric movie as the foundation for a new trilogy. The Rey film, initially envisioned as a continuation of her story, has now been scrapped, signaling a shift in direction. Rather than making Rey the focal point, the new trilogy will introduce original characters and stories. For fans hoping for a creative reboot or soft retcon of the sequel trilogy, this may come as welcome news. While Lucasfilm isn't officially undoing the sequel trilogy, this approach effectively resets the storytelling, charting a new course for the franchise. Given the polarizing reception of recent Star Wars films, this strategy of starting fresh while retaining only a few beloved elements like Grogu is a logical move. By focusing on new characters and ideas while still leaning on Grogu's popularity, Lucasfilm can appeal to both longtime fans and new audiences. The decision to push the timeline forward beyond The Rise of Skywalker also allows for more creative freedom, untethered from the constraints of previous sagas. As part of this new direction, rumors suggest Rey will play a more limited Obi-Wan Kenobi-like role in the upcoming trilogy. She might appear as a mentor figure in the background, possibly even meeting her end at some point and returning as a Force ghost, similar to how Obi-Wan supported Luke in the original trilogy. This approach underscores Lucasfilm's commitment to making Rey a secondary character rather than the central focus of these new films. Ultimately, the biggest takeaway here is that the Rey movie has been officially cancelled in favor of this broader reset. Rey may still appear in the new trilogy, but only in a smaller supporting capacity. This isn't her story, it's an entirely new chapter for Star Wars, one that emphasizes originality and innovation, steering the franchise in a bold new direction. The involvement of Simon Kinberg in developing this new Star Wars saga is a polarizing decision. Kinberg's Hollywood career is a mix of notable successes and high-profile missteps. He first gained attention with his work on the original Fantastic Four film, and later assumed greater creative control over Fox's Marvel properties, eventually becoming a key producer for the X-Men franchise. While his work on X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past earned acclaim, his sole directorial effort, X-Men Dark Phoenix, was widely criticized. Despite this, Kinberg has also been credited with pushing for projects like the original Deadpool, which became a massive hit and revitalized Fox's superhero lineup. According to Rob Liefeld, Kinberg was one of the driving forces behind convincing Fox to greenlight Deadpool, even after the studio was hesitant following leaked test footage. This demonstrates that, at his best, Kinberg has an eye for taking risks that pay off when paired with strong directors and a well-executed plan. The challenge now lies in whether he can help deliver a cohesive vision for this new Star Wars trilogy. Kinberg's experience with large franchises and ensemble casts could be an asset, but given his track record, much will depend on the caliber of directors Lucasfilm chooses to helm these films and the strength of the scripts. The hope is that Lucasfilm has learned from past mistakes like the disjointed approach to the sequel trilogy, which lacked a unified vision from the start. It's worth noting that this isn't the first time Lucasfilm has pivoted its creative direction for Star Wars. Damon Lindelof's involvement with an earlier version of this new trilogy was ultimately scrapped after his initial drafts focused on a much much older Rey, set decades after The Rise of Skywalker. This iteration of the story was abandoned, along with a slate of other Star Wars projects that were part of a previously announced with around 9 or 10 films initially in development. Many have since been cancelled or reworked entirely, signaling just how much Lucasfilm is rebooting its long-term plans. This complete overhaul of the future Star Wars slate reflects the studio's attempt to start fresh by moving away from Lindelof's version of Episode 10 and reimagining it under Kinberg's leadership. Lucasfilm seems determined to craft a more compelling and cohesive narrative for this new trilogy. The big question is whether this reset will truly be the bold, innovative move that Star Wars needs, or if it risks falling into the same creative pitfalls as before. Lucasfilm's recent shifts reflect a significant overhaul of their approach to Star Wars, especially regarding the next saga. Initially, the new trilogy under Damon Lindelof was set to introduce a fresh villain and a much older Rey, embodying a wise mentor role similar to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. However, this concept was abandoned after Lucasfilm decided to focus on a younger Rey, set about 10 years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. Daisy Ridley's willingness to return to the franchise was likely a key factor in this change, but creative tensions soon followed. Lindelof exited the project, with some sources claiming he was fired and others suggesting he left voluntarily. Stephen Knight, acclaimed for Peaky Blinders, was then brought in to rework the Rey-centric movie. However, after about a year, he too stepped away from the project under similarly unclear circumstances. This tumultuous process led to Lucasfilm shelving the Rey movie indefinitely, signaling a shift away from the Skywalker saga as the cornerstone of the franchise. Instead, the studio opted for a clean slate with Simon Kinberg at the helm of a brand new trilogy, marking a deliberate departure from the previous storyline. This fresh start is a pivotal moment for Star Wars. The upcoming trilogy, referred to as a new saga, will not carry forward the Skywalker legacy, but will instead introduce original characters and storylines. This approach is akin to giving Star Wars a mulligan, an opportunity to redefine the franchise's future without decanonizing the Disney era entirely. By doing so, Lucasfilm avoids alienating fans of the sequel trilogy while addressing the divisive reception those films received. A crucial component of this strategy is the increased involvement of Dave Filoni, who has become a cornerstone of Star Wars storytelling. Although not officially the Kevin Feige of the franchise, Filoni's influence has grown significantly, with creative control over major projects. His ability to reintroduce and adapt beloved elements from the Legends canon, as seen in The Clone Wars and The Mandalorian, has been instrumental in bridging gaps between older and newer Star Wars content. This new trilogy is being developed with a much more structured plan than the sequel trilogy, ensuring that Episode 10, 11, and 12 will have a cohesive narrative from the start. With this level of foresight, Lucasfilm hopes to avoid the inconsistencies and disjointed storytelling that plagued the sequels. If executed correctly, this new direction could serve as a bold and exciting new chapter in Star Wars history, free from the baggage of the past, while honoring the essence of what makes the franchise beloved. Lucasfilm has truly put itself in a position to make a bold move by essentially rebooting the Star Wars franchise's future without completely wiping the slate clean. They're navigating a careful balancing act, keeping the heart of what made Star Wars beloved while ditching the elements of the sequel trilogy that turned fans off. It's an ambitious mulligan that could breathe fresh life into the galaxy far, far away. But here's the big question. Will this be enough to win back the divided fan base? Or is it just another attempt at fixing a broken formula? What do you think? Is this new direction a fresh start that Star Wars desperately needs? Or are they just avoiding dealing with the mess the sequels created? Are you excited to see a Star Wars saga built from scratch with new characters? Or are you longing for some continuity from the Skywalker era? Drop your reactions, thoughts, and burning questions in the comments below. This is a pivotal moment for the franchise, and your opinions matter more than ever. But that's not all. There's so much more coming your way. With the Super Bowl just around the corner, we're about to be hit with a wave of new trailers, and you won't want to miss them. Expect more updates on Fantastic Four and Andor Season 2, and be sure to turn on alerts for my channel so you stay in the loop with all the action. You don't want to miss these major drops.